Canon Brown has had to leave us, but we thank him very much for doing the honours outside. Mayor of Youghal, Sammy Revens, Minister, elected representatives, Mrs Connolly, distinguished guests, CRY people and friends. You're all very welcome here. I'd like to first of all thank Foróige for facilitating us here. They're the landlord, or they are our neighbours here. Both of our landlords are, as Noel mentioned, the St Vincent de Paul, and I think I can speak on behalf of Foróige as well as to say we're all delighted to be here. And I think any of us who have neighbours know that if there's anything as important as keeping in with your landlord, it's keep in with your neighbours, and we're delighted they've facilitated us today. I'm not going to talk too much, I'm just going to introduce you to some people who have some things to say. And the first of those, and we're honoured to have him here, is the Mayor of Youghal, Councillor Sammy Revens. Sammy.
Special guest Eileen Connolly, Canon Brown, Minister, Deputies, elected public representatives, ladies and gentlemen, and most of all, the listeners to CRY. It's a great pleasure for me to be the Mayor of Youghal, probably the last Mayor of Youghal on this occasion, to be able to come down here and wish CRY the best of luck. It's a fabulous facility for the community. I don't want to go on about it. I mean, you're all here as guests of CRY, but you know, what's important about it, the CRY is it's local and it's community, and it's up to us to keep CRY in Youghal, okay? And I would like to wish him the best of luck, Noel and Co especially, who started it back in 1979, and Eileen, who gave the premises. I can go back to 79 myself on Sunday mornings when my father used to be listening to it, and none of us used to get a lie in because my father had CRY on, and it was loud but enjoyable. But just to say that you have a home now and look after the home, and it's up to us, the people of Youghal and the surrounding areas, to look after this home. And I'd just like to wish you the best of luck and enjoy CRY.
Thank you, Sammy. I know that's heartfelt, and we wish you well for the rest of your term. And I'd now like to call on the Minister of State for Innovation and Research, Sean Sherlock, TD.
Just to say very briefly that I'm absolutely delighted to be here with you today to share in your success, and to say that I have had on many an occasion the opportunity to be interrogated, if I could use that word, by Mr. Riley, and to say that it's always a great pleasure to come down here to be interviewed by CRY, because you know that you have to be prepared for a multitude of issues, and it's great training, could I say, for a fella like me to try and keep on top of his game, because if you go to an RTE studio or any other studio, they will say, well, we will discuss A, B, C, D and E, and that's it, and you know what you're going to be discussing and you can prepare for it. But when you come in to CRY, anything goes. And that's why I love coming down here, because I love the cut and thrust of that kind of debate that exists here, and I love the idea that it's peopled by local people. It's a voluntary effort. I love the idea that there are so many stakeholders involved in its success and in its creation, and we have to acknowledge that historical narrative from where it came from to where it is now today. And it's a wonderful, wonderful story of a community success here in Youghal. And I say that as a Malaman, but I also say that more importantly as somebody who is an elected public representative for this area as well. So I just want to say that on a personal level, I'm delighted to be here today. I share in all of your success. I look forward to future interrogations, if I could use that word. But just to say that it is wonderful, and it's a wonderful day, and you've had a wonderful history. And I love the idea that it came from maybe the pirate days and the community days, if you will. And it's amazing that there are people who were involved then who are still involved now, and that's a testament to people's commitment. So I share with my fellow public representatives and the wider community in your success, and congratulate you on your efforts. This is about people here in Youghal, it's about yourselves as a community. So, Guramila Mahil.
Thank you, Minister. And we know that you're Minister for Innovation and Research, and Community Radio Youghal, one of the many things we've gotten into in the last few years is training. So we may be knocking on your door, Minister, and we understand it will be open. So thank you very much. I'd also like to hear we will hear briefly from our other Tábhachtha Dála for the Cork East constituency. And the first of those that I'd like to hear after Minister Sherlock is Sandra McClellan, TD, Deputy McClellan.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'd just like to thank the organising committee for inviting me here today to this very special occasion. And as a Youghal woman, it's an honour and a privilege for me to be here. Community Radio Youghal is a fantastic facility and organisation here at the heart of our community. And it brings all the local news into our homes. And it's particularly useful to people that are confined at home, maybe sick people or people in rural areas that find it difficult to come out of their homes, to keep in touch with what's going on locally. I suppose I was involved in community radio in the early days as a young teenager. I took part anonymously in some of Christy Parker's comedy sketches. So I suppose it's news to everybody here today that I was one of those people that was taking part. I just want to congratulate the station on their new state-of-the-art facility here, and I want to congratulate the hard-working, dedicated staff and volunteers that helped bring Community Radio Youghal into our homes over the year. And I'd just like to wish you all the best for the future, and I hope that you're here for many, many, many years to come. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sandra, and many years of success for yourself as well. Now I'd like to call on Deputy David Stanton.
Thanks very much, Mayor, Minister Sherlock, Deputy McLennan and the councillors and others who are here today, and Ms Conley, of course. I'm delighted to be here. This is a fantastic celebration of community, and I think the radio is actually the beating heart of Youghal. If you think about it, it's the beating heart of Youghal. When people talk about the radio in East Cork, whether it's where I'm from originally out in Ladies Bridge, or whether it's in Middleton where I'm living now, or here in Youghal, when people talk about the radio, they're talking about one thing, that's Youghal Community Radio. It's the radio. So RTE and the rest of you forget about it. This is the radio. Sean spoke about being interrogated, and the first that struck me when I came into this room a while ago was these rules here. No fighting, no bad language, one warning. And again, when we come down here, we are interrogated. We are actually, as politicians, as your representatives, we are actually put on notice, and we're asked to have questions. And that's as it should be. Again, a day like today doesn't happen without an awful lot of work. You didn't arrive to where you are today without a huge amount of work from professional people, from managers, from staff, from volunteers, from the whole community support, from business people, from everybody who has got behind this. So again, like my colleagues, I want to wish you well for the future. Can't keep on the good work, and Pat, don't have the questions too hard. Thank you very much.
Thank you, David. Now, Deputy Tom Barry was to be here. I haven't seen him. Tom, if you're here, you might make yourself known, but he was to be here. But if he can't, he certainly sends his apologies. I'd also like to acknowledge, because there are a lot of elected representatives here, we're not going to have everybody speak, obviously, but I would like to acknowledge the presence of our two county councillors from this area. Councillor Barbara Murray, whose term as Mayor of County Cork ended in June. In fact, it ended the day after we had the official handover of this building, and we were delighted that she was able to preside at that event, and very grateful for the help that she provided for us in her term and prior to that, and indeed I know we can count on it in the future as well. So Barbara, thank you very much indeed for that. And also I'd like to acknowledge Councillor Michelle Hennessy, who's also member of Cork County Council and who was the previous mayor and was acknowledged on that occasion in June, I think, turned up every time we even thought about making a bun, never mind having a bun fight. Michelle turned up and she was brilliant to do that. I'd also like to acknowledge the presence of all of the other members of Youghal Town Council here today. We really do appreciate it, and as I said, that's for another forum, but maybe like the water, we might miss the Town Council only when it's gone, and we do appreciate it. And the Town Council has supported Community Radio Youghal for years and continues to do so in a very material way, and that is very, very important to us, so I just want to acknowledge that. Finally, somebody who's here today also, who is not a chocolate dollar at present, but was for many years and may well be again, is Michael Ahern. And Michael, we welcome you here today. Thank you very much for coming. And Michael has been a friend to Community Radio Youghal down the years as well. And certainly I began here in 2009, and that year and in 2010, Michael was, anytime he could be of help, he certainly was. So we really appreciate that, Michael, and it hasn't been forgotten. So if anyone else elected has been forgotten, I apologise, but we will move on, ladies and gentlemen. The next person I would like to invite to speak to you today is, he's the driving force behind an organisation called CCAD. I think everybody here knows what CCAD is. It's the Local Development Partnership. It stands for South and East Cork Area Development. I came in touch with CCAD because a representative of theirs was involved in interviewing me for this position. So they have a lot to answer for then and for what happened subsequently. They've helped us with strategic planning. They've helped us to do a lot of things, and they have provided us with funding through the Regional Development Fund, with huge funding towards our project, and it simply would not have happened without funding. So ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce the Chief Executive of CCAD, Ryan Howard.
Thank you so much. Mayor, Minister, elected representatives, friends, community, all that have packed in here today, despite the weather, in spite of the weather. What another wonderful day for you all. I think everybody here deserves a big clap on the back, because in every kind, in very small ways, we all contribute to these kinds of projects. And I'm delighted that we've got to this point, and as was mentioned earlier, we are and have been involved in quite a number of projects across South and East Cork over the years, but this kind of project where there's so many people from the community involved is really special. In the last 2 years, we've invested over €600,000 in capital investment in Youghal. That's over €1 million when you actually drive it into jobs and into the buildings themselves. Over €1 million that have been invested through CCAD into the area. When you take the average grant that we give is €35,000, that's an awful lot of work being done by volunteers, communities, and by entrepreneurs across this area within this catchment. And for that, again, we must acknowledge that in this difficult time, people are standing up to try to do things for themselves. The big projects that you see that we're involved in, obviously here in Youghal Radio, we're also involved in the Youghal Clockgate, the renovation of that, the tulips, the lovely tulips project that's down there with the Chamber of Commerce. We're involved with Brunashley, with Comunadina, and with Enterprise Youghal in terms of developing new craft units down in St Mary's, which should be open, I think, early in the new year. But those are the big items. It's often the very small projects, it's the individuals that come into us. Over 250 people from the Youghal catchment have come to us in the last 2 years alone, looking for a bit of guidance, support, advice, whatever we can do for somebody in terms of, I suppose, trying to get back into work or establishing a business for themselves. We've also had over 250 people involved in training programs, particularly in partnership with Comunadina. We work very closely with Comunadina, as you know, here in town as a base for our services. And over 250 people in the last 2 years alone have come through direct training with ourselves as well. We also directly employ through the TOOS program, through our two CCAD contracts that we get from the Department of Social Protection. We employ over 40 people in this area now to give them an opportunity to get off the live register, give them a chance to get back into work. So there's a huge amount of places that thankfully we're so involved in around this area. And as a town, as a catchment, it probably is our most important catchment in a lot of different ways. The town is an area that's on the periphery of the county. It's on the periphery of the region. Very often when we started here, people would say we're forgotten, we're left behind, we're left outside. So we were delighted to be able to make sure that in our strategies we focused clearly in delivering services for this town and for this catchment. It's all about partnership. CCAD is a small piece of that partnership. The key people in terms of any partnership are the community itself. But also our elected representatives are a key part of that partnership, as are our state bodies and local authorities. Local development organisations are often a bridge across all of those headings. And that's what we've done well over the years. And I think across Europe, we have 50 local development companies across Ireland. We have over 3,000 across Europe, but ours stand above and beyond many others because we are built within the community, because we are that bridge, and because professionally we've developed the skills to go beyond the norm, to put ourselves out there and get involved in innovative projects that very often take an awful long time. We mentioned there Community Radio Youghal. Our relationship here started many years ago. The dreams and aspirations to actually get to this point started again many years ago, and that takes time and dedication, both from the community and from people like ourselves and from all of those other partners I talked about. In recent times, people have talked about the changing of the role of the local development companies. Some people thought maybe it made sense that local development companies would become part of the state. We're not part of the state, we're part of the community and the state. We are that bridge. But some people in the past or in recent past would have talked about us becoming part of local authorities, for example. Thankfully, that's moving on. Thankfully, people have recognised that each of us as partners have our key space, our key role, and it looks very clear that we have a clear future as well, and contracts will continue to come through organisations like CCAD to be part of that process, because we all need a number of stakeholders. We need a number of places that we can go and get advice, guidance, finance or whatever, not to narrow it down, to create those doors and make sure those doors remain open. As I said, the future is bright. The future is getting brighter and clearer, and that's to be applauded, that's to be recognised, and I thank the public representatives here who are a great team representing this area. The people who sit in front of us here today, Sandra, David and Sean, are acting as a team. I know they have their own times when they have to work maybe in their own spaces, but when it comes to organisations like ourselves, organisations like CRY, they are working together for us, and I must say we should put our hands together and acknowledge the hard work that they've done and are doing on our behalf. Thank you. However, I've said a lot of good things about CCAD and would like to be involved in lots of good things, but we cannot do everything. We are limited in terms of how we can support. We have some resources. Thankfully, those resources, those funds from Europe, from the national government, etc., have continued to increase and will continue to increase, I've no doubt, in the future. But there are times when there are challenges in front of us where we can't, we just can't sort, we can't help it. We can do our best, we can help in terms of putting a plan together for a community, etc., or supporting them, but we just don't have the funding to meet all needs, and that's a reality. There are challenges for currently in this town in terms of the fantastic groups like Cumanadina, for example, where they have real challenges going forward in terms of running costs, etc. We have the same challenges ourselves as an organisation. We've had over 25% of our running costs cut. So you have to keep working hard and making sure that you can get the support from the state, directly from the state itself, to keep those going. And I'm very hopeful that, again, with that team of fantastic people that we have working together, that we will find a way of working across all those services. And as I said, it's right across the communities in terms of making sure for the future of all community services that they are maintained, and we can find ways in which we can resource that. Finally, I would like to just, I suppose, come back to today and CRY. It's just like, it's so important to have a mouthpiece, to have a place that you can come and vent, to have a place that you can also listen and learn, to have a place where you can share, and CRY obviously is one of those fantastic places that has been developed by this community, by Mervyn and the team, and I just want to congratulate them for their fantastic work over the years, and acknowledging that we were delighted to give a grant of just shy of €150,000 for the development of today's, for studios, etc. It's one of our biggest allocations to any project anywhere in the area, but because of the strength of the community, because of the strength of the team here, the decision was fairly straightforward for us, and we were delighted to be part of it. So thank you, congratulations, and we look forward to the continued hard work that you're putting into it, but also being part of that going forward. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ryan, and we mean that sincerely, and thanks for the words of encouragement as well, because today isn't the destination, it's a stage on the journey, and that's very important, because we're not going away, and the needs of the people and the community in this part of the world aren't going away, so we'll thank you for that. I should also acknowledge, as I said, I referred to the support of Cork County Council, but the Cork County Council Community Grant provided a large fund towards this as well, as did Youghal Credit Union, which has been a dream to work with, certainly in my time here in Youghal. But also, and it shouldn't be last but by no means least, the people of Youghal, whether they supported our auctions, our dances, our fun walk, all of the fundraising events that we've been holding over the last few years. As I've said time and time again, thankfully we think we're at a stage where we don't need to fundraise to pay for the lights anymore, but we did need to fundraise to get this place up and running. We've a bit more to do. We're going to put up a graph that shows all the money that we still owe after it, but that's in time. But we just want people to know that, you know, it's not hand to mouth, and your money is going somewhere specific. It's not for just to keep CRY running, because that isn't it. Right, we're going to continue with speakers, ladies and gentlemen. I should acknowledge just before we go on that Pobble, which is a group which is possibly not seen very much, but it's an agency under the auspices of the Department of Social Protection, and it provides support towards Community Radio Youghal, towards the employment of full-time staff, and it's through that myself and the other members of staff have jobs here, and I think that's important to acknowledge. There isn't a representative from Pobble here today, but certainly they are here in spirit. Likewise with FOS through Mary Carson. Mary, I don't know if Liz Toomey is here as well, but the resources that you provide to us are huge, and the talent that is available to us through the Community Employment Scheme and through the 2 scheme that Ryan referred to is second to none. We have some really good quality people through both of those, and they're making a huge contribution to this organisation and to the community. Just in case it isn't mentioned a little bit later on, Community Radio Youghal has been nominated. It was nominated by CCAD actually for the Pride of Place Awards, which is a national award. It's 32 county. It's organised by Cooperation Ireland, and we were shortlisted, so we're the winners, if you like, in Cork County Council within the County of Cork, and we're representing the County of Cork in the Community and Arts section, and that will be presented. We'll get some kind of a prize. I don't know whether it's going to be big or small, but we'll get that, and we'll collect it in Derry next weekend. Noel Cronin and myself will be up there, but we will be representing everybody who's involved in Community Radio Youghal and everybody who supports it. So, you know, that's success as well. Our chairperson will talk last, ladies and gentlemen, but the people who give us our licence and the right to go on air, and CRY received its last licence in 2008, so we're almost halfway through a 10-year licence, but they are the Broadcasting Authority of Ireland. They're the people who govern communications, and certainly broadcast communications in this country, and I'm delighted to welcome here and to come on a Saturday, and I do appreciate a lot of people coming here on a Saturday. It doesn't suit everybody, but and all the way from Dublin is Kieran Kassan, who's the head of broadcasting with the Broadcasting Authority of Ireland.
Gurbagat, Minister, elected representatives, Mayor, people of Youghal and listeners, lots of you out there to Community Radio Youghal. It's great to be part of a good news story in these times, and especially a good news story for community media, because community media is an area that's very important in terms of delivering voices for people and also delivering to the plurality of broadcasting in Ireland. And Community Radio Youghal is one of the shining lights of the community broadcasting sector in Ireland. Declan talked about this not being a destination but a departure point for this station, and I think it's a very solid one to leave from. The Minister talked about the narrative of this station, and Noel talked about the narrative starting in illegal times, but I picked up the narrative when things were legal. I visited Youghal for the first time in 1995 when the station had been awarded a licence, and at that stage I was wondering, how do we get this on air when we can't go and operate from somebody's bedroom and somebody's premises, and we've got to do something which is more substantial. And there was a real challenge being faced at the time, and I met 3 men, Noel Cronin, who spoke earlier, Seamus Murphy and Jim Fitzgerald, who were trying to say, well, what do we do with this? And small steps, they got a lot of support from the community. A lot of that has been mentioned already, but it really showed the innovation and the resourcefulness of this station to get off the ground at that stage. And almost 20 years on, it's great to see how much development has happened and how much potential there is there. So well done to everyone who has been involved and will continue to be involved and will benefit from working with the station, but also in terms of being listeners. I just want to very quickly also recognise the contribution that often is forgotten but is really critical that this station has made over the years to the development of community broadcasting across the country. Declan's involved with Crail are here, but in lots of ways Youghal has provided lots of ideas that other people, and support. Often when people called me and said we're thinking of trying to start a station, I would put them on to different people to get ideas, and Youghal was always one that people could go and visit and learn from. And if you want to learn more about that, there's a book called The Bicycle Highway, which Noel Cronin has a chapter in, which tells some very interesting stories about how broadcasting and the innovation of broadcasting in Youghal has contributed. Seamus Murphy is laughing there because he knows those stories. And finally, just in terms of innovation as well, we're also responsible for allocating funds for programming. We've responsibility for 7% of the licence fee, and last year that amounted, in terms of allocations for community media, to about 1 million. And it is a lot of money from one perspective, but there's a lot of competition for it, and it's one where people need to think creatively about what they're going to do in programming terms. And the people involved in broadcasting here have always been very good at that. There was a project launch earlier on this week, which I was sorry I couldn't attend the launch, which was a really good example of a project. And the other one I'd like to highlight was it was one of the first, Youghal was one of the first community stations to take on doing drama, and they 2 years ago took on doing Harbour View, which was a really innovative approach to doing local drama on relatively small budgets, but saying that drama is something which, with a bit of resource, community broadcasters can do as well as everybody else. And it was a really terrific project, and I think it's an example of the innovation and the resourcefulness of this community. So best of luck for the next 20 years and beyond, and I'm delighted to be here.
Thank you, Kieran. And as I said, words of encouragement, they help us to keep going and get on with it. And Kieran is right. The staff and volunteers here in the past couple of years under the Sound and Vision scheme, we've been very successful in the past couple of years, but that success has come through an awful lot of creativity, through skill, and through an awful lot of hard graft and involvement with the community. It's not just talking about one person, it's getting out there and making programs about groups, whether it's about diabetes, whether it's about the soap opera, or many of the projects, like one of the ones that was launched this week was on education, called Education for Our Future. It's about education from preschool right through up to 4th level education, and Dr. Rosario Griffin, who is the presenter of it, is here. But that's just an example, and we're wonderfully privileged to have her as a volunteer, and the calibre of our volunteers and the commitment of them is second to none. So, I think it's important we acknowledge that as well. The other project is about the Horgan collection, which is very important and well known to people here. The Horgans were synonymous with cinema in Youghal, and that project is going to be, it's a 3-part series, and that is going to be going out in Community Radio Youghal very shortly as well, and we're absolutely delighted to be associated with it. And speaking of cinema, Mikey Roach is here, and Mikey is, I'm not sure if he's 91 or 92, you won't mind me mentioning his name. Mikey is here. He was, I understand, the longest serving cinematographer in this country. He was 64 or 65 years showing films in the cinema here, and Mikey was also, I think, went to school here 84 years ago, he said. So if anybody is at the back there going to put up their hand who can beat that, we'd be delighted to hear from you. Ladies and gentlemen, we try not to detain you too long because there is a cup of tea and a bit more besides, and we want you to get an opportunity to get that. So just a couple more people to hear from. One of those is, I'm staying on the theme of programming because he's here representing the St. Vincent de Paul, but the man I'm about to introduce is a well-known broadcaster, has a lot of broadcasting behind him through our national broadcaster as the Southern correspondent of RTE and subsequently its first marine correspondent. But he's also got a lot of broadcasting in front of him as well, because he's going to be involved in doing a series on the marine called This Island Nation with Community Radio Youghal here. We're going to launch that in January. The first episode will go out. It'll be a monthly 1-hour series on the marine, on waterways, on everything maritime, and we look forward to doing that. And as Kieran mentioned, through Crail, we'll be sharing it with community stations around the country. It's an exciting project. We're looking forward to that. But in the meantime, wearing his St. Vincent de Paul hat as Vice President of that organisation, would you please give a warm welcome to Tom McSweeney.
Thank you, everybody, ladies and gentlemen, community of Youghal. It's a great pleasure to be invited here on behalf of the Society of St. Vincent de Paul. Up until a number of years ago, it was a society quiet in the background which didn't come out much to the forefront. Over the past few years, it has been necessary to change that and to encounter with the people what we want to do. Our work is for social justice, for equality, and to empower people. So Community Radio Youghal is exactly what we want to do, where people can make their own voice heard. When this building, Youghal House, reached the end of its tenure, its time as a holiday home, it was great to see so many people come and show an interest in using it. Robin Triggs down there, who represented us in negotiations with the Youghal Community Radio, resulted in the building finally getting perhaps its crowning glory as far as I would be concerned, but that's a biased viewpoint because of my broadcasting background. It's interesting to think that next year the Society of St Vincent de Paul will be 170 years founded in Ireland. Started in Ireland in 1844. It's been through 2 world wars, a famine, a war of independence and a civil war, and is still giving help where we can. We've never before had a radio station in one of our buildings, so this is historic for us. And on that point, it's important to say that our founder, Frederick Osnam, was a 21-year-old student, but he was also a journalist. Journalists aren't very popular sometimes these days, but he was a journalist, and he started a paper called New Era in Paris when he launched the society. So it's great to be here for a new era of this building, going into broadcasting and making the voice of the people heard. And that empowerment is crucially important in the future. Now, there's a lot of sweet talkers down here in all local radios, I've heard it. Mervyn and Declan, I have to say, are 2 of them. When I came in here to kind of finalise things for the society, Mervyn said, "Pity we don't have a radio programme about the marine down here. There's a great maritime tradition," which I agreed with because, as I said before, I've done a lot of programmes in RT down here. And then he kind of looked at me and I said I'd try and find somebody for him. And he kept on kind of pointing at me, which I took as an indication that I was the one. And Declan confirmed that. It's a great honour to be asked to go back broadcasting. I left RT in 2009 and didn't expect to go broadcasting again. So it's a challenge and I'm looking forward to it. I think radio is a magnificent medium. I call it the theatre of the air. I can say to you anything now here and I'll present to you a picture of what I might be seeing. If I said to you, there's a red ship coming up on Youghal Beach, I wonder what's going to happen. Everybody in here would probably think of a different kind of colour, different kind of ship, different kind of where it's going on the beach. But what we have created in radio is the theatre of the mind, which can be expanded anywhere. And that's the beauty of radio. I'm looking forward to new colleagues down here, not as important as Pat Kenny leaving for News Talk, I'm sure. But I'm looking forward to new friends, making new friends, and hopefully making a new audience. I hope that when I get here for the first time, nobody does to me what Maurice O'Doherty did to me when I broadcast for us live from RT Radio News at Montrose. He was a big smoker, and smoking was allowed internally in those days. And his trick was when the newcomer came in with his script to read his minute and a half, Maurice would lean back in his chair, then he'd lean forward, you begin to look what's he going to do, and then he'd strike a match, and he'd set the end of your paper alight. And he would start reading faster and faster, right to get to the end before he finished. And when he came out, the news editor would say, O'Doherty got you, did he? You don't have to speak that fast in future. 3 words to a second, even for a Corkman, quite fast enough. So Declan and Mervyn in particular, thank you. Thank you for what you've done here, and I'm looking forward to it. And hopefully we'll present a few new seascapes from this building. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. We're looking forward to that. I'm going to say "and" finally now, so everybody will be relieved and take a deep breath. But before I do, one thing I want to draw your attention to, ladies and gentlemen, because we talk a lot about now, we've talked about the past, we're talking about the future, but we shouldn't forget the people that have gone before us. And we've drawn up a list. Noel Cronin mentioned them on the air this morning individually. 26 people that we could recall who've been involved here at Community Radio Youghal who have passed on over the years. But they're on the notice boards just in the hall. When you go down past the studios in the office area, they're on the notice boards there on headed notepaper, on Community Radio notepaper. 26 people. You might take a moment as you pass to just look and remember you probably know one or two of those people. Finally, ladies and gentlemen, as I said, thank you very much for your attention so far. I hope we can have it for just a few more minutes as I introduce the chairperson of Community Radio Youghal, Mervyn Scott.
Well, Tom, my page isn't on fire, but I'm going to try and get through this as quickly as I can. Mayor of Youghal, Minister of State, other local TDs and town councillors and everybody who's here today, a very warm welcome to you all on behalf of Community Radio Youghal. And I think the evidence of the fact of the impact that Community Radio Youghal has had on this town and surrounding areas is in the number of people that are here today. I think it far surpasses what anybody expected, but every single one of you are extremely welcome here. Thank you for coming to this very historic occasion as we officially open our new premises and state-of-the-art studios here at Community Radio Youghal. Thanks to all our listeners and those who are tuned in as we speak to celebrate with us this special occasion. And particularly today, our thanks to Eileen Connolly for doing a fantastic job earlier on this afternoon. That's what I really want. I'd like to say too a very sincere word of thanks to St Vincent de Paul. They've turned out to be wonderful landlords already, and we want to thank them for all the helpful cooperation we've received from them. We're delighted that as a spin-off, Tom will be lifting anchor again and setting sail with us in the new year as he joins us back on the airways. But Robin Triggs and to all involved in SVP, we want to send our sincere thanks to you. I think it's another example of community at work together, and I took as my theme for my 2 years as chairperson from Bob the Builder, working together we'll get the job done, and that's what we sought to do, and that's what we're looking forward to do in the future here with St Vincent de Paul. We'd like to thank today to our nearest neighbours, Froiga, because just in case you think CRY has got a huge premises and we've expanded a great deal, we're actually standing today in Froiga's building, or the part of the building that Froiga lease from St Vincent de Paul. But we want to send our sincere thanks to Catherine Ryan and all in Froiga for the use of their space today and for being such good neighbours to us. Thank you very much indeed. A day like today, has been mentioned, doesn't happen without a lot of hard work behind the scenes. And the lady from CRY, Linda Carroll, who is a volunteer with us, also is our sales representative and has been on the road and actually has our advertising space filled to capacity. And so, Kieran, we're going to be coming knocking on the door of BAI, looking to extend our programming hours so we can increase our advertising. But Linda, for all the hard work you've done behind the scenes today and getting today in place, we'd like to give you a very sincere thank you indeed. Thank you, Linda. John, Keep It Country Parker, is over there in the corner, and you'll appreciate him even more after I've finished and you're partaking in all the wonderful refreshments that he's made today. I'm coming between you and that, so I'm going to keep moving. But thank you, John, and everyone involved in helping John to get ready for today, and when it eventually gets served, making this occasion run very smoothly. Indeed, keep it fresh and keep it tasty, John, and we look forward to what we're going to have in a few moments. Thanks to Kay Conlon for supplying the flowers for today, and for her willingness to do that. We really appreciate it. There's one man in this room, though, who has been very busy, I suppose, for the past 4 years. He's been doubly busy, particularly over this past summer, because Declan not only has been running the radio station here in Youghal, but he's also been looking after two newly born twin boys, Michael and Andrew. There may not have been much to rejoice about hurling-wise in Kilkenny this summer, but there was lots of happiness in the Gibbons household, and I do believe we have very proud grandparents, Ivan and Denise, here with us today, and also to Declan's wife, Christina. We send our warmest congratulations and well done, and to all indeed, and we look forward to the boys maybe coming on air, maybe not playing for Kilkenny, because I'm sure there'll be a perfect duo in the future against Cork, but Declan, well done. And I know there's been a lot of hard work involved, not just in today, but in keeping the radio station running, also being the proud father of 2 twin boys. And so we wish you and Christina, Michael and Andrew, all the very best now and in the future as well. Can I just say too, there's also another family in this room today, and most of you probably don't know them. You may have seen the father of this family around during the construction of of our studios and facility. His name is Brandon Duart. He's here today with his wife Norma and his 3 lovely daughters, Marissa, Lucia and Grace. And I just want to tell you a very special story. I want to welcome them all particularly, but really we want to say an extremely warm welcome to Grace. Grace, during the summer after Brandon had finished the job here, took off to Lanzarote for a 3-week holiday. I don't think it was quite at our expense, but off he went anyway with his family. But Grace turned out to be extremely ill while they were on holidays, and we're just delighted that Grace is here with us today, and we want to give her a very, very warm bula boss and welcome Brandon and Norma and his family here today. They are going to be our next door neighbour, because Brandon has bought the little lodge next door as a summer holiday home for himself and his family, and we look forward to special times with them going forward in the future. I do just want to mention our core staff here at Community Radio Youghal, and they are Declan, as I've mentioned, our station manager, Yvonne Smith, Justin Maher, Dara Parker and Angela Kearns. Now, there are other staff members who work with us on the various schemes, community employment schemes and so on. I'm not going to list all of them because I'm going to leave somebody out and I'm going to get myself into trouble. But to those core staff who are employed with us under Pobble, as Declan mentioned earlier, I just want to say a very sincere word of thanks to them. Earlier in the year, I had the task of filling in a Pobble audit, and one of the questions was being asked was, do these staff work the 39.5 hours that they're supposed to work each week? And to be honest, I was a little bit affronted by the question, because knowing the amount of time and effort that these people, Declan and these core staff, put in, way and above the 39.5 hours expected, often taking work home at night, often working in these studios and offices till the early hours of the morning, work that most people never see. In my capacity as chairman, I get to see it occasionally. I want to say a very, very sincere thanks on behalf of all the board and all the management team at Community Radio Youghal to Declan and those 4 other members of staff. Well done, and thank you so much for all that you do. In mentioning the board, I do want to mention to Finbar Motherway, who's been the vice chairperson, agreed to take it on when the chairperson's role was filled. And I want to thank Finbar today for his wisdom, for his attention to detail. As most of you know, he's a retired headmaster. He keeps me right, he keeps my spelling right, and he keeps me right in other procedures as well. And thanks to him and to all my fellow board members who are here today for all the work that they do, I really appreciate it very much indeed. As many of you know, I am a person who believes in the Bible, and the good book says, if I can paraphrase it for a moment, that we all suffer from eye trouble. Not these eyes, but the letter I. And you know, community radio, and community in particular, is not about me, is it? It's about us. It's about community. And sometimes in community radio, I'm sure you'll be surprised at this, sometimes the eye trouble gets in the way. Not everything's smooth sailing. It's not always easy. There are sometimes difficult decisions to make. There are sometimes difficult things to do. But today I want to emphasize here this afternoon, there's no I in the word team, we know that. And in Community Radio Youghal, we want to be a group of people who have as many people from the community involved in our station, in our service, and we do want to continue to work together to get the job done. There's one person here today who deserves special attention, without whose willingness, sacrifice and commitment this radio station would not be here today. Her name is Noreen Cronin. She is Youghal, I think she's Cork's, maybe she's Ireland's #1 wireless widow. Noreen, we are so grateful to you, because without you we know that the man who keeps the radio station going in terms of technically, Mr. Noel Shocks Cronin, would not be here. He's the most warm-blooded man in Ireland. I'm amazed today that he's not wearing the shorts, that he's got the long trousers and the shirt and jumper on. But to Noel and Noreen, we want to say a very sincere thank you today. And on this very special occasion, I think it's only right that we acknowledge both the Cronins, Noel and Noreen, this afternoon. Next year, as Declan mentioned earlier, and Noel too, Community Radio Youghal will celebrate 35 years since radio was established here in the town. Illegally, as has been pointed out, pirates, and some, I think, although we're now legal, some still have that pirateness about them from time to time. But we're looking forward to celebrating our anniversary next year in a very special way, as we have been nominated to host the Community Radio Fela at the end of May, and we're looking forward to welcoming over 150 or so delegates from all the other community radio stations on the island of Ireland to Youghal to showcase not just Community Radio Youghal, but the town of Youghal and the surrounding area to all those broadcasters who we hope will go back to their areas and tell them what a wonderful place Youghal is to come to and spend time in and spend their money in and so on. So we're looking forward to that weekend next year. Can I just pay a special tribute to the three previous chairmen of Community Radio Youghal. One sadly passed away not so long ago, the late Kevin Collins. But we also want to acknowledge today Tommy Collins, under whose chairmanship he was my predecessor before I took over. It was under Tommy's chairpersonship that the decision was made to actually go ahead with opening these new studios and going ahead renovating Youghal House and looking for somewhere more permanent to have our radio station in. So to Tommy Collins, to Seamus Murphy, and to the late Kevin Collins, we send our very sincere word of thanks today too for all that they've done to bring us to where we are today. If I can speak to our elected representatives for a moment, just to say that there's a rather reverse upstairs, downstairs situation here, particularly in the side of the building that we own. As you can see, our brand new studios are there, we have lovely offices and everything else. But Sean, I'd like to invite you and your fellow TDs to come with me to the upstairs to see what is yet to be done here at Community Radio Youghal. Well, come and look again, Sean, come and look again. A second look is always worth the visit. Sean, I've noted from what it says on the website that your Minister of State at the Department of Enterprise, Jobs and Innovation and the Department of Education and Skills with particular responsibility for research and innovation. And I think that area of space upstairs here in Youghal House is the perfect place to produce a media centre of excellence that could not just be of benefit here to the town of Youghal, but to East Cork and West Waterford. And in working in tandem with our fine secondary school here in Youghal in terms of skill coming through at a younger level, I think if we can get our heads together as Minister, as deputies, as from CCAD and so on, I think there's potential there to really put together a great facility. We've got the people here in Community Radio Youghal with the skills, with the editing skills, with the production skills, with the design skills and so on. And I believe rather than sadly see them go out the door when their employment scheme comes to an end, we'd love to create some sort of facility here that would actually see them go on to go into some kind of a business or something, enterprise that would actually be of benefit, as I said, not just to the radio but to the area in general. So we should have a little nip up there before we all leave this afternoon and see where we can go. Here we are in a facility today that has cost the best part of €300,000. And that's a lot of money, isn't it? It doesn't roll off the tongue very easily. And to be honest, there's always a need, and Declan mentioned earlier our fundraising drives and things we've done, there's always a need in community radio to look for ways to generate funding, new funding streams. There's always a need to increase the funding coming in. And today I don't want you to leave here with the idea, Community Radio Youghal has it made, look at the studios, look at the offices, everything is wonderful. I want you to leave today having become a member of Community Radio Youghal. And It's even better than the free month's car insurance that some people are advertising on the radio today. If you become a member today, then your membership will see you all the way through to January 2015. All right, it's €10. And if you're not a member, can I encourage you to become a member today? And what that does is you may think, well, 300,000 is a lot of money, €10 doesn't sound like very much. Declan mentioned what we're going to have left to pay, and we're very thankful to the credit union for facilitating a loan to us. But if you become a member today, and if everybody who's here in this room and beyond and outside left here becoming a member, your €10 will go a huge way to help us with our cash flow going forward and paying off the remaining loan that we have on the facility here and keeping our cash flow in order, and save this man a lot of sleepless nights and headaches when he's trying to work out ways to raise more money in the future. Forms are available. Please don't leave. There's one for everyone in the audience, all right? Today is a great day to celebrate and to showcase what we have here and now. Please do take the time to look around the facilities, to chat to staff members, to chat to the volunteers. Please make yourself known. You know, there's many people probably in this room that we only know by the sound of their voice. I met a man recently here who said to me he's been listening to my Reflections programme, which by the way is on Sunday at 5 o'clock if you want to tune in, for many years. And he thought, Sammy's come at the match. We'll record it for you, Sammy, after the match, yeah. He said to me, I thought you were somebody of about 60 or 70 with a big beard. Now, I didn't really take that very well. I swallowed hard and just moved on. But we may not know you only by the sound of your voice in the telephone. You've rung in maybe for a request or something else. You may not know us only by the sound of our voice. So today's a great day, and I've met somebody new. I met a new volunteer earlier today when we were getting ready for this afternoon. Do make yourselves known. Do try and meet a new friend, and do make today a very special day. Thank you all for coming. Thank you for your ongoing support as we seek to serve the whole community of East Cork and West Waterford. Buíochas a dia, gur má guibh, and enjoy the rest of your day. What we'd like to do just before we split up, just if you can give me just one more moment of your time, and thank you for your patience. We would like this afternoon just to make a very special presentation to Mrs. Eileen Connolly for all that she did to us today, and present it with a bunch of flowers and a token of our appreciation.